Hello, chess family. It's me, National Master Jesse James. It's time for another one of my personal games. And this one, I'm going to get my butt kicked by Matthew Ortiz again. This guy keeps coming at me, and I keep trying just to stop the swings. And this one, we played. He actually got to play d4 against me, and I did a modern Bayoni. Opening, I don't like to play too often, as you're going to see why. It does translate to the Son of Sorrows, and I definitely understand why. So here we go. I'm not sure if I can play this opening again because I just get into these terrible positions. Here we go. We start up with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3. At this point, I do usually like to go ahead and just play the pawn c5 here, but I just don't think I can handle it anymore. Pawn c5 got played, d5, e takes, pawn takes are going into the modern Bayoni, d6, knight c3, g6. I played this all very fast. I'm very confident in this kind of position. Knight to d2, a very good move by him. Here, one of the biggest weakness in the modern Bayoni is this d6 pawn, which kind of looks weird because, well, it's behind enemy lines. With that being said, he's doing a very nice setup. The knight goes to c4 to attack d6, and the bishop goes to f4 to attack it. You would think this would be easy to defend, but it actually really is not. So here I went ahead and continued with the idea of knight b to d7. What's the idea here? Well, once the knight goes to c4, I want to trade off this knight for this knight, because this knight is just too powerful. One of the biggest problems you have in this position is it's overcrowded over here, and so trades here will actually help out black, especially if you can trade off two of the minor pieces, especially this light square bishop. Just a terrible bishop here. I was hoping I could play my bishop to g4 and trade off for the knight. Lower rates will miss this, but Matthew is not one of those lower rated. I'm not sure if he prepared for this or not, but he played very, very well. He went ahead and played pawn to e4, bishop g7, and now he plays the knight to c4. This already has a 45% win rate here for white. And here, well, I played my idea, knight to b6, and then he played bishop f4. Now here, I should have just kept things simple and just played knight takes on c4, bishop takes on c4, and then just go ahead and castle. With that being said, I had some experience in this opening, and so I went ahead and just castled right away. There's actually only one good move here to grab the d6 pawn. Can you figure it out? Do you play knight takes d6 or bishop takes d6 here? All other moves are going to get black counterplay. What do? Hopefully push pause. Hopefully you want to try and figure it out. The only move, of course, was to try knight takes d6. Hopefully you saw after bishop takes on d6. Well, this is pretty standard right here. You could just bring the rook over to e8. And, well, the idea is to try and take this bishop away, and also the e4 pawn is attacked. And so here, black just is in a better position. If you try like knight takes, queen takes, even after e5, you're just falling for tactics now, buddy. Queen takes on d6 here. So it is kind of hard here to actually hold on to this. With that being said, knight takes d6 is actually the move here, a move many people would not really consider. But even here, I do get some counterplay, which I was very ready to play. I would play knight to h5. And here the knight has to take on c8 right away. Now here I was contemplating whether I should take on f4 right away or rook takes on c8. With that being said, I'm looking at the position. I definitely like the rook takes c8. Knight takes f4 is a move, but it looks a little artificial. Although I must say, I do like getting rid of this bishop. You know what? Knight takes f4, knight takes b6, queen takes b6. Yeah, this looks okay to me. Black has a decent little advantage, and the g2 pawn's being attacked. Yeah, I would definitely play this. Although again, I definitely do not mind the rook takes on c8 here. And yeah, there's good tactics here. They're losing another tempo. The rook will go to e8, and there's tactics about taking on d5 in these variations. With that being said, he did not accept this pawn sacrifice. He went ahead and just played queen to d2. And here, well, black already has some winning plans here. And well, at this point, I was just playing a little too fast, and I was calculating. I mean, Matthew does take a lot of time in his games, and that's where one of these games. The reason why I'm going over this game, I want to talk about the concept of using your time, because time is a piece. Even though this is a game 90 with 5-second delay, I was able to get him low on time here by playing fast and just playing, you know, what I think are logical moves here. And using your clock is very important, especially in positions where you're worse, because when you're in a worse position, well, there's not really much you can do anyways other than play mostly forced moves. You have to wait till they make that inaccuracy, and then you pounce on them. Also, it's very, very hard, especially in a winning position, just to win them. It's a very famous saying is winning one position is very hard, right? So in this game, I did exactly that. I tried to put as much pressure on and play as fast as possible. If I took my time here, I felt that would have helped out Matthew. So here I went ahead and played rook e8, the blunder of the game. Here there was 2 good moves for me to play. If I had just taken my time a little bit more, I would have easily found... Well, I saw knight takes c4 was a move, and after bishop takes... Well, here you could play rook e8, which is a good move. Or you can play knight takes c4, winning a pawn. After knight takes rook e8, there's no good way to defend this knight. If you do try something like bishop d3, well, f5 just gets played, and you're going to lose a tempo here very soon. f3, f takes on e4, f takes on e4, and bishop f5 can get played, pawn c4 can get played. This king's in the center, and he's just going to be attacked. He's just going to get mauled. And the other good move to play here, after this knight takes c4, is just, you could just play knight takes e4 right away here too. Knight takes c4, knight takes e4. It's all going to be very good tactics for you because the king's in the center. But he went ahead and played queen d2, and I just blundered. I played rook e8 without playing the knight takes on c4. I missed that after knight takes on d6, well, this is actually attacking the rook and also defending the pawn. What can you do here? Wow. Computer gives queen takes d6 as only a +3 advantage, which maybe I should have tried this out, but to be honest, I did not even look at this. After bishop takes, knight takes on e4, knight takes on e4, rook takes on e4, check. Yeah, I can see how this can definitely give some advantage here for black, and it's gonna take a little time for white to jump out of it. To be honest, if I would have seen this idea, I probably would have done it just because, well, I'd rather be attacking than defending. Bishop e2, and look at this beautiful move, knight to c4. And if queen to d3, knight just takes back, defending the rook. Not a bad idea. So here looks like there is some sufficient counterplay. Back to the game, though. I did not see this idea. I just played the simple rook e7. And now Matthew is just being a chess bully and keeps pushing me. Bishop e2, a very good move. There was a lot of tactics with knight takes d5 because of the pin. No more of those ideas. I was expecting him to, and I was hoping that he would take on c8 at some point. And after rook takes c8, my position is not looking too bad. e4 is still a little threat. Again, the knight takes d5 variations are there. If it's something like silly like f3, then he can just simply take on d5 here. But yeah, Matthew's not falling for any of these simple tricks. Those are for kids. He's an adult. He played bishop e2, knight to d7. Yeah, I mean, of course, I would have loved to have tried knight to h5 here, but bishop e2 gets out the pin and also stops this idea. The idea of knight f to d7 was to try and play the knight to e5. But again, he pushes on with the strongest moves. This is already a +4 advantage here. One thing I will tell a lot of people that play chess, especially like, oh, is it +5, is it +9? The computer can definitely give those kind of analysis or evaluations because it's a computer. It doesn't make any mistakes. With that being said, there's so many positions that, strong players will lose whenever they're either, in better or worse positions just because they don't believe in the position. They give up psychologically. So it's very important that you don't give up in this position. I know I hadn't. I know, against most people I'm playing, especially if they're lower rated, I believe I'm just going to win because, I have more experience than them. It's better to have that kind of psychology than I'm going to lose psychology because, well, you will fulfill your ideas out in one way or another. So here you played bishop g5, pinning it. I should have played f6 here, but I played knight f6, and then he played a strong follow-up, queen to f4. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is just, attacking me. I was expecting him just to castle, and then we just continue, but he is not like that. He's going to go ahead and add as much pressure as possible. The good and bad thing about this is that, well, although he's making the strongest moves as possible, he's getting very low on time in these games. All right. Knight b to d7. I had to defend the knight. This was the only good way. Castles right here. Queen to c7. Another blunder from me. I thought I was just pinning the knight and maybe I can just trade. White to move. What do you play here to keep the advantage? Here he was at +4. Now he's at +8. Black, or I made a very bad move here. What do you play here as white? I do encourage you to push pause. Here he played knight to f5, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am losing again. Here he's threatening to take on e7 and check, so I don't have time to take on f4 here. Knight takes e7 check, and this is easily winning here for white. So here I have to part with my dark square bishop, and there's really only one good move here that does not lose the material right away. What's the only move you can play here? Yeah, you have to play it, rook to b5. And you have to be careful here because there was many tactics in the position. For instance, something like d6, well, I was planning on playing the queen to d8. I thought I had spotted if the queen goes to b6. Well, here there's knight takes on g7. king takes on g7, bishop takes on f6 check, and now you see the rook is overloaded here. Computer is giving, after knight takes g7, you have to sacrifice the rook, and yeah, I just don't want to give away anything I don't have to. So here, I would have just played the queen back to d8 here. All right, back to the game. Knight takes on g7, king takes on g7, and then he chose knight to b5. Not the best move in the position, and, well, I'm able to fight back a little bit. I played queen back to b8, and I'm pretty sure he was hoping for something like queen to d8 here, where d6 is just going to be very, very strong in this position. Maybe even just play something else here. I mean, gosh, there's just so many good moves here. I even like knight to d6 here. The only threat I really have in this kind of position is rook takes e4, but after this, that's not even a threat. Again, I like this knight to d6 move the most. But as at this point, he starts to lose the grasp on the position. That's why it requires a very strong player to win a chess game. Why? Because you need to be able to convert winning positions. You would think that at a +8 position, which I'm not sure if you feel like that is one. I definitely feel like this is just crushing. It's still hard to convert if you don't know the best way to do it. And here he's complicating matters when he should be trying to make them as easy as possible. And here after knight b5, I think he just freaked out. And he was hoping that I'd play a weaker move. Unfortunately for him, I did not. And then here he makes another inaccuracy, bishop to f3. Again, it's still +6 position, but now I'm able to start fighting back. Of course, he can't try the d6 move because, well, I just take on e4 here because I'm no longer in the pin with the queen to d8. To be honest, this is still winning here for for white. But again, this is something psychologically you just don't want to deal with. So after this, he played bishop f3. Perfect. Now I can fight back. Let's do it. a6. b5. Now I got some queenside space, and maybe I can finally get my pieces out. That was one of the worst things about my position, is that I just don't have any pieces out ready to attack. He played knight to c2. Not a bad move, but again, I feel like he's just playing a little too fast in this position, and I think he needs something a little bit more aggressive. And then here, well, I'm on defense here, so I'm looking for trades. I'm looking for anything that's going to help me survive. At this point, he's probably down to about 25 minutes here, and I still have about an hour left on my clock. I played knight back to g8. He played the move I thought he'd play here. One of the ideas in this position is to play f6, g5 here, winning a piece. Every move should have a purpose, and we should always be trying to make threats. He played queen g3 like I thought. I played rook e8. Although I do not want to trade queens here, I was pretty sure my young and aggressive opponent did not want to either. With that being said, I did not want to trade queens here. I felt like the endgame was very much easily winning here for him. He played bishop f4, and I was all but elated to go ahead and play knight to e5. Here I'll play my pawn to f6, and the idea was to play knight h6 and f7. And my knights are actually doing really well here. I might even try to get another knight to d6 here, and, well, I've successfully made a blockade here. Although he has these passed pawns over here, or a passed pawn right here, a candidate passed pawn, I have successfully defended. And the e5 is a square that we typically try to blockade in this modern Bayoni. He played rook after d1 here, and at this point, you know, there's many better moves here, but at this point, again, I'm just trying to play faster because I want to put as much pressure on him as possible. Once his time gets low, then all that extra time, I can then invest it and create more and more problems for him. Queen to d6 got played, just a simple move to blockade. If he can get the pawn to d6 up here, then the knight can maybe jump over to e3, d5, and you can see that the penetration of the position has really started. So here I play queen to d6. a4 here, he's doing a very good job by trying to make counterplay. And then I went ahead and played bishop d7. Here, I did not want to play something like pawn to b4, as this is exactly what he's wanting. The knight would go to e3, and then the knight would jump to c4. The perfect square in these kind of positions. Again, the modern Bayoni, a knight on c4 is going to be very good for white. So, of course, I did not fall for that. I went ahead and played bishop d7, and here he went ahead and played a takes b5. Now, you do have to be careful in this position because the pressure on the knight. Here, of course, a takes b5 is just a blunder. After rook takes, bishop takes on e5 check. What was my idea? Well, after a takes b5, I took back with the bishop. An extreme measure, but in this kind of position, I want to complicate as much as possible. Earlier, complications are bad for me, but now they are good. Why? He's low on time. And if I play all the standard stuff, he knows how to react as fast as possible. And here I need to get my pieces as active as possible. So the bishop here is actually not badly placed. If he had more time on the clock, I really have no doubt that he would be able to convert this position. Unfortunately, this is not the case. The clock is a piece. Use it. Knight a3 was played. Of course, I'm not afraid about the knight taking here, fixing my pawn structure. Here I played f6. Now, if he does take on b5, well, a takes b5, and now I've got this beautiful pawn structure. My position is getting better and better. And again, I want to play knight h6, f7, maybe go to d6, or just keep the knight here to defend the other knight. This bishop is definitely not a very good piece, so I'm not really ever thinking about taking on f3 here. So bishop takes on e5 here, a nice little trick. And, well, I'm not a kid either, so I don't fall for it. F takes on e5. Taking any other way would just be worse for me. I don't want to trade queens here because, again, I said I think this endgame is better for them, especially with the bishops over here. And so if you take with the rook, well, knight takes b5 and you just pinned yourself and you're losing a piece. So I went ahead and just took back with the pawn. My plan of putting a knight on e5 is now gone, but he's left with a bad bishop. And here he tries to continue. I think at this point he's down to about 10 minutes now. Rook F to C, rook D to C1. The rook has done its job here, and now there's a weak pawn on C5. Let's get to it. Knight F6, getting my knight back into the game, putting pressure on the E4 pawn. And knight to C4, a move I was all but elated to see. This knight is just too strong, and I understand why he wants to trade here because, well, this knight's pretty much dominated by the bishop. But here you can take it slow and just double up your rooks with rook C3 and rook A3 here. But here he played knight C4, snack attack, let's do it. Rook takes on c4. Now I have a backwards pawn on b2 I can put pressure on, and the e4 pawn is another weakness. Not to mention his weak back rank. Here we go. Rook f to e to b8, attacking the b2 pawn. Rook to c2. Already he's starting to defend, and his time is getting lower and lower. And I went ahead and played rook b4. Simple idea. I want to double up our rooks and put as much pressure as possible. At this point, I believe we are no longer using our notations. We're just playing just with the clock. No more notation required. He got into 5 minutes. I still had about 45 minutes, but again, I want to put as much pressure on him at this point. And well, I felt confident that I could actually win this position in a blitz mode. Pawn to h3, rook over to b8, again attacking the b2 pawn, and he played bishop e2, the first blunder now for him. Knight takes on e4, attacking the queen. Bishop e2 was obviously made for the rook takes a6, and it's a blunder because of time trouble. Now the game is about equal. Queen to f3, and rook to b6. Now here again, I could have tried to win the pawn on b2 here, but at this point, the longer the game goes on, the better it is for me because he's in time trouble. Also, at any point during my time, I can go ahead and stop. I have about 40 minutes left and let him sweat it out, which is something I do later on because, well, why wouldn't I? I want to win the game, and I want to put as much pressure on him as possible. At this point, again, you can see the cracks are happening now. Rook to b6, maintain the position. The d5 pawn will be the next to fall. Bishop d3, knight to f6, just bringing the knight back, putting pressure on d5, and here, unfortunately, he blunders with rook ac1. Black to move a win. What do you play? Simple chess. Pawn to e4, forking. Bishop takes on e4, and rook takes on e4. Here, rook knight takes e4 was actually a better move here, but because it defends the c5 pawn. But I liked this idea playing rook takes on e4 with these back rank check ideas. He did not like this, and so he didn't even take the pawn on c5, which is the best move. He went ahead and played rook to d2, rook b7, queen a3, putting pressure on the pawn, but that's okay. Rook just goes to e7 here, and here he played g3. Obviously, he should not take the pawn on c5, as this will get him back rank mated very fast. So back to the game, he played g3, and now, well, trades are good for me, so check, check, king g2, and rook went back to attack the pawn. Obviously, at this point, this is just a dominating position. And, well, I start to take my time a little bit. He went ahead and played queen to b3. I took on d5. He played queen b7 check, and I played king h6. And then at this point, he played rook e2. At this point, I think he had maybe a minute left on his clock. And I still had my, 30, 40 minutes. And, well, at this point, I took my time. I took about 5 to 10 minutes here to really understand the position. Yes, I'm up an extra piece, but there's no need for me to rush this. A strong player must maintain his maturity and not just rush through the games to try and win with cheapos. Why not? Why win with cheapos when if you just play correctly, you'll win the game altogether? A lot of lower rated players will not follow this rule, and they'll keep playing fast and try to trick their opponent. Not me. I'm a bit too old for that kind of stuff. After thinking for quite a while and looking at a lot of different variations, I went ahead and played rook to d1. Obviously, one of my ideas is to trade queens here, but I also don't want to allow any kind of checks or anything to happen, so I took my time here. And here he made the final blunder, queen to f7, and after queen to d5 check, he went ahead and resigned. At this point, I'm just forcing off the queens, and with about less than a minute now on his clock, well, the endgame should be very simple to convert. I already had calculated after queen takes, knight takes, if he does try to play anything like rook to d3, I was simply going to put my knight over to b4, and I'll use my rook over here to defend. And again, I'll just slowly start creeping forward, maybe push this pawn or win the b2 pawn here. And well, that was my game against Matthew. This is my first round of the complete chess November 2022, and man, it was a very tough round. We'll see how I do in the rest of them. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next video. Bye.